It's time for this week's edition of MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week show. Father's Day 2015, hackers invade the St. Louis Cardinals, possibly, and technology and baseball. Join Rich and Gary on MLB This Week podcast. And hello, everyone, and welcome to this week, MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week show, podcast talking all about baseball. Welcome to this edition of MLB This Week. It's the podcast talking all about baseball, the independent show. My name is Rich.
And I'm Gary.
And happy Father's Day, Gary Mack.
And same to you, Rich. Happy Father's Day, and happy Father's Day to all of the dads out there. And, you know, what's better than baseball and Father's Day?
That's for sure. We had some old nostalgic music there. Take me out to the ball game to start us off. And that's what you think about around Father's Day a lot of the time when you're a baseball fan. You remember the days you might have went to a baseball game with your father, your uncle, or stepfather, going out to the ballpark, seeing a game. And, yeah, it brings back some great memories.
It certainly does, Rich. And unfortunately, my father passed away a number of years ago, and I don't have that memories any. I mean, I have the memories. I can't bring him anymore, but I'm making new memories with my stepdaughter, and we went last Monday night and had just a great time. I mean, I raved about it for all week. What a blast we had at Citi Field, and the Mets won in 11 innings. We stayed till the bitter end. And just a terrific inning, just a terrific game. And, we laughed and high-fived and screamed and yelled and just had a ball the whole evening.
Yeah, that's amazing. I was wondering if you stayed the whole game. I know when it starts to get late like that, you never know when a ball game might end.
Well, here's the thing. The game was like 1-0 almost the whole game, so it was moving quick. And I thought, this is great. I'll be home in time, by bedtime. But hit that bump in the road, got tied. They had the lead. Guy tied it up. Batista hits a home run in the ninth to tie it up. And then we went to 11. And but it all worked out. As I said, we had a great time. And I was home by midnight, I think, and got up for work the next day. So everything was good.
Yep, and that's what matters, of course, after a night of baseball, getting back up for work. But a nice story out of baseball, Cleveland.com this morning, Terry Francona shared a Father's Day memory with the writers of Cleveland newspaper. And, of course, his father, Tito Francona, played 15 years in the majors, including 6 years with the Indians. Francona told a funny story where when he first started playing baseball, he was on a trip to Cuba with the USA team, and he told of a time when he smuggled about 6 or 8 cigars out of Cuba after the game. He brought them back to give them to his dad. So after he gave them to his dad, his father said, well, I'm not going to smoke a cigar that you give me until you make the big leagues. So as the story goes, Francona called him one evening and said, hey, I'm going to be playing tomorrow. So he remembered his father almost started to cry, and Then he had his Cuban cigar to take out and smoke. So it's a funny story there on Cleveland.com.
Great story, and puts a lot of pressure on him, though.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure. And another great Father's Day story here, research this out of the Baseball Hall of Fame. Charlie Finley, who used to own the Oakland A's many years ago, back in 1972, offered all of his players a $300 bonus, which was still a good deal of money in 1973, if his players would grow a mustache in time for Father's Day that year. So if you remember back to the early 70s Oakland A's, a lot of those guys all had mustaches, and that's probably why he was paying his players $300 bonus if they would grow that mustache in time for Father's Day.
Yeah, and of course, Rollie Fingers has still got his. He never got rid of it, but I remember that when they were doing the whole mustache thing, and like you said, $300 was a lot of money back then to those guys. So,
yeah,
and Charlie Finley was one of a kind. Let me tell you.
Yeah, he seemed like a character for sure.
He definitely was. He was crazy. I remember with the donkey and riding out the donkey on the field, and of course he brought out the what we used to refer to as softball uniforms with the gold and the green and the white shoes. And it was just something else to behold.
Well, another thing to behold, we got a ton of news for you on this show, on the podcast that we'd like to call MLB This Week, Gary, and you have probably the top story. Haven't heard too much about it since it broke, but some hackers invading some MLB teams, apparently.
Well, Rich, it appears as if the St. Louis Cardinals were hacking. The FBI and the Justice Department prosecutors are investigating whether front office officials for the St. Louis Cardinals, one of the most successful teams in baseball, is no arguing about that, hacked into internal networks of a rival team to steal closely guarded information about player personnel. Investigators have uncovered evidence that Cardinals officials broke into a network of the Houston Astros that housed special databases the team had built, according to law enforcement officials. Now, this all centers around the general manager of the Houston Astros, who worked for the Cardinals and developed a computer system there, and then was hired by the Astros as their general manager, and developed something similar to then. But I guess the Cardinals got jealous that they felt they were getting stolen, ideas were getting stolen, so they wanted to check it. At least that's part of what they're claiming at this point. But Rich, I'm not a Cardinals fan, and it couldn't happen to a better bunch if they get caught, to be honest with you. We all talk about the Cardinal way, and so maybe is this how they've been doing it for years, by hacking into people's systems and seeing their systems and how they rate players and whatnot. So I don't know. That'll all remain to be seen, but it's not a good thing for this organization, because, like I said, this is the FBI. This is federal. So never a good thing when the feds get involved, Rich.
Yeah, that's for sure. And St. Louis Cardinals chairman Bill DeWitt has blamed roguish behavior, quote unquote, for the team's involvement in the alleged hacking of the Houston Astros player personnel database. So I think what he's trying to say is that, they're going to cooperate with this investigation, but it may not be at the behest of ownership and management that whoever might have broken into the Houston Astros database did so on orders. In other words, it might have been all on this one person, and that's how they glean this information. I'm sure that'll come out as well. But yeah, nothing's sacred anymore. Whenever there's a computer database, there's usually somebody trying to hack into it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if somebody just falls on a sword for the team, and like the old days with the mafia, they'll take care of the family while the person goes up the river. But again, if they're going to punish other teams for things, this deserves some punishment, and it'll be interesting to see what Major League Baseball does when it's their turn, because they're staying out of it now and letting the FBI take it. And we'll have to see whether they take draft picks away. They can't take back the world championships, though. That would be nice, but they can't do that. So we'll see if they take draft picks away. And I don't think they could ban them for postseason play for a year or 10. So
And that
that would be nice as well. But I don't think they can do that in a professional league like they do in colleges.
Yeah, I don't think the FBI takes lightly to some of that stuff, especially when it involves professional corporations and things like that. So we'll have to keep an eye on this story and see what happens. And hard to say. I mean, the Cardinals don't seem like a team that would need that kind of scouting information, but you never know.
Well, unless that's how they were getting all these good players all these years, by doing it to other teams. So who knows?
Yeah.
It could be it could be that way, or I don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch and see what happens with this one.
Yes, it will be. And the week in baseball had plenty of stories in it. Here's one of the top stories. Of course, you're watching the video broadcast of this. Alex Rodriguez, of course, got his 3,000th hit in a Yankees win off of none other than Jason Verlander a couple nights ago, Gary Mack, and it set Twitter all alight with all of the comments about it.
Yeah, certainly. I don't know, Rich. Should it have an asterisk? Is it tainted because of the steroids? If the home runs are tainted and they're part of the hits, I think everything should be tainted. But he did hit his 3,000th hit and got a little bit of fanfare, not what you expected. But and the interesting thing, Rich, is who caught the ball.
Yeah, a guy that's well known to us in the podcast circles, Zach Hampel, which is probably a lot of people listening might not have heard of him, but he's actually a ball hawk. And what those kind of guys do, and girls, around the stadiums before the game starts, they're scouring around for all the baseballs that they can find in the stands that hit out there, and they'll even motion to players for them to throw them a baseball here and there, and just basically end up with as many baseballs as they can go home with during a game. And Zach Hampel actually caught this ball from A-Rod. And Gary, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse for him.
For A-Rod or Zach?
Yeah, either or.
Well, yeah, I don't know. He hasn't returned the ball, and he's playing hardball, no pun intended, but he is playing hardball, Zach, and nobody knows what he wants. Apparently, one of his tweets, he said the Yankees have offered him a ton of memorabilia and other things. I don't know, what is he? Maybe he wants Babe Ruth's uniform or something. I don't know. I tell you what, I'd make that deal maybe, but Zach Hampel is not the most liked guy in the universe, though. I think he gets a bad rap because I read one place where they said, "Oh, he knocks over little kids," and I've seen him in person, and I've seen him on videos, and he gives away a lot of the baseballs that he gets. He's reportedly gotten 8,000 baseballs, over 8,000 baseballs. So, and a lot he gives away. I think he likes to keep like the ones like the Wrigley Field had a special ball for the 100th anniversary last year, and he got one of those, and so that kind of thing. And he also caught one of Barry Bonds' home runs, and now to get this, it's almost as if he's got a magnet for these big time baseballs. And again, it's going to be something to watch and see what he and the ones, what does he really want? Nobody really knows what he wants for this ball, and he's not, according to some of his tweets, he's not a big A-Rod fan. So I don't know what the heck. When do the Yankees lose interest? You know, they're putting up the, I guess, the front now that they want the ball, but when do they lose interest and just say, we don't really want it?
Yeah, and right after the game, A-Rod was quoted as making a comment in reference to the ball. Of course, he wanted that ball to give to the Hall of Fame, apparently, which is what he was saying all along. Not too sure that the Hall of Fame would be willing to display that with all of the steroids, as you said, Gary, his suspension, his asterisk, like the writers have treated other ball players, not wanting to vote them into the Hall of Fame at all. And I think A-Rod will be no different. But as you said, it's a double-edged sword for Zach Hampel. He's gotten a lot of bad comments from people. They think he's greedy, which he's not. He has a charity that he gives to with every ball that he gets. He gives a donation to a charity. He's donated thousands of dollars to charity throughout all of his career of chasing down balls. And he's also an author. He's authored a few books on the baseball, of course, which is what his life centers around. And yeah, I think he's taken a bad rap for people that think he's greedy, that he's holding back for more money. He's often said that he's never sold a ball ever. He even caught Mike Trout's first baseball home run. And he's never sold a ball. So profit is not his motive. He's 37 years old, but if you see a picture of him, probably you will in the next week or two as the story grows, he kind of looks like he's about 21 still. So best of luck to Zach Hampel. He caught A-Rod's 667th home run of his career. And wow, what a great time. You just never know what's going to happen at a baseball game, and he always brings his glove. So if that's a indication for any of our listeners out there, why don't you bring your glove to the next game if you're sitting down in the front?
And I just, I find it fascinating that, like you said, he's 37, but he doesn't look it. I wish I looked that good at 37. Yeah, it's like almost like for A-Rod, it's like, holy cow! If all the people in the world, it had to be him to get it. It's almost like the line from Casablanca, with all the gin joints in the world, she had to walk into mine. But it had to be Zach Hampel that got it.
Yeah, and he had 2 conversations with officials at Yankee Stadium after he caught the ball. Even met with Yankees executives Randy Levin and Lon Trost. They apparently tried to offer him things for that ball as well. But he had this quote to say after the game, quote, "A-Rod will not be in possession of this ball tonight unless he personally mugs me out on 161st Street. So after I read that quote on Twitter the night it happened, I thought, well, A-Rod might not mug him, but somebody else might.
Yeah, that's true.
With a ball that expensive,
One of A-Rod's supporters, too, maybe.
Yeah. So best of luck to Zach. We're going to try to get him on a future show, talk all about this interesting hobby of his. I talked to him, had to go back in the archives for this. I talked to him 4 long years ago, Gary. It didn't seem to be that long ago that we interviewed him on Phillies Talk. But, yeah, he's always an interesting guy to have talk on a show.
Yeah, never had him on a show yet, but he does seem like an interesting guy, and I hope we can arrange that.
Yeah, it'd be fun to listen to hear his inside word on what actually happened in beyond and this time now that has passed since he caught the ball. Well, moving on with the show here, we were talking last week about the Major League Baseball All-Star Game vote, and Gary was telling us 8 of the Kansas City Royals have been voted into starting positions, but now apparently, Gary, some of those votes might be in jeopardy.
Well, Rich, it's true that 8 were leading, and of course, Bryce Harper leads all players with the most votes. He's the next closest is almost 1.5 million away, and that would be Matt Carpenter. But the Royals are leading, and what has happened on Thursday that the MLB Advanced Media CEO Bob Bowman announced the cancellation of between 60 and 65 million ballots for the upcoming All-Star Game. The decision was made after the Royal fans exploited the online voting system earlier this week, putting a total of 8 Kansas City players in line to start for the American League. While 60 million votes sounds like a lot of votes, it's really about 20% or something like that of all the votes. Is 300 plus million ballots that have been collected. So this cut was on par, they say, with the results from previous seasons. So, but really an interesting thing in that they did take this action to cut and to announce it. And they think there'll be another 200 million votes by the deadline of July 2nd. So they're urging people to go out and vote for your players. And, of course, in Detroit, they're trying to get Miguel Cabrera, and Houston, there's an effort underway to get Jose Altuve on the team. But it should have never come to this, Rich. We spoke about this, and I don't understand the whole 35, where they got that number from per, email address. And I don't know. They're going to have to seriously look at it and come up with something, and they're open to doing that. But, it's a major flaw, and it's somebody took advantage of the system, and we were talking about hacking, and this is another form of it. You can create as many email addresses as you want, and if you want to get somebody on bad enough, you can just sit there and do it. Now, I mean, I've got like 5 different email addresses, but I get so bored after voting for one a couple of times using one address, I don't even want to bother anymore.
Yeah.
Those stupid characters at the end you got to type in. If you don't type them in right, or they don't read them right, then it's a whole different thing, and just a mess. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but they have to come up with some kind of better idea.
Yeah, apparently there hasn't been any scripts used to make these votes. Their MLB is very good about that. Of course, computer knowledgeable people can write programs to actually vote for themselves, but apparently that has not happened. But it's been an active fan base, apparently, and we've seen that with some other votes. The last guy nominated on the All-Star Game, they did a couple years in a row, and I can remember some teams having 5 or 10 fans at stadiums like the Phillies did a couple years ago to vote for their players, and hosted them all night. That's all they did for 24 to 36 hours in a row is voting for the players that the team wanted to be in. So, yeah, it's kind of a weird thing, and I think baseball is going to have to reevaluate how they're voting all-stars in now, because it's gone beyond the voting at the stadiums with the paper ballots. At least they can keep track of something like that in some manner. But now with exclusively online, it becomes very hard to manage that. So we'll have to see what happens with that. And Gary?
And again, Rich, just one last point on that. You can, you can stuff the ballot box with the paper ballots. That's been done in the past as well.
Yeah.
But if somebody wants to take the time to sit there and stick the cards out, then I mean, it is quicker with the online stuff, and I don't know. I just think it opens up a whole can of worms, and they have to do something. I really think it should. Some guy suggested that I think it was Jason Stark of ESPN. I really think that what he said was 50% of the vote comes from the players, and apparently the players do have a say in it now. But his idea was that you take the teams, the players that were elected by the fans, and if none of those players are on the top 3 of who the players vote, then you just reject it completely and put who the players voted in. I don't know if that's a solution. It may work. It sounds better than what they've got going now. It's an idea worth trying, and it's just what the commissioner decides to do at this point.
Yeah, and I'm thinking he's going to decide something in the realm of taking 1 or 2 players off of the Kansas City vote, in addition to disallowing these 60 million votes. We'll have to see what happens. The All-Star game less than a month away now, and we'll just have to keep an eye on it for you and let you know what's going on. We'd like to let you know now that you can become a sponsor of this show. If you like what we do here, you can log on to our Patreon page. That's a place where a website that collects donations for arts and things like that, which is this show. As we do it each week for you here, just go to our website at MLBThisWeek.com. There's a link to our Patreon page on every show that we do. And there you can become a monthly sponsor just for as little as a $2 donation per month, about a cup of coffee. And it'll help us keep some bills paid with the show expenses and other things we hope to bring you more of. Maybe another hat for Gary here and there or one for myself. So if you have a business or a service and you'd like to get your name plugged on the show, we also have a spot for that, just a little bit more per month. We'd be glad to pitch your business or service right here on MLB This Week podcast.
And it certainly is a wise investment.
Yes, we wholeheartedly recommend it, and we appreciate your support for this show. And Gary, did you happen to see Max Scherzer's no-hitter the other night, just yesterday?
No, I did not. I was not at home, but I did read about it, and I'm sorry, I can't get too excited over the Washington Nationals winning a game on a no-hitter, because as they seem to be getting hot again, my Mets seem to be going into the deep freeze. So, but congratulations to him on getting a no-hitter.
Yeah, I happened to be watching that game from the 6th inning on, and they were talking about his no-hit performance up to that point. So it made it to the 7th and then the 8th inning, and then came the 9th inning. Well, by then I was tweeting it on my Fightin' Phillies account, my Twitter account, because of course a perfect game is great news. So he got the first 2 outs kind of easily. He was down to 2 strikes on the last out that would have earned him this perfect game. He threw an inside pitch. I don't know if you saw it yet on a replay, Gary, but Jose Tabata for the Pittsburgh Pirates seemed to lean his elbow into the pitch and got hit on purpose by this pitch. And it was just a poor way of losing a perfect game.
Well, I'm a great believer that you do whatever you can to break up a no-hitter. So If that includes bunting, I'm for it. I don't care if you're losing 10-0. I think you reach a point where your job is to break up the no hitter, and so you do whatever you can. And I guess he did what he could to break up at least the perfect game. Odd that you'd want to get hit, though. I would think that you would try to at least bunt, try to get a hit to get on base and break up the whole no hitter. But, he got the no hitter, and that's the second of the year already. Because the Mets were the first ones to get no hit. But look, he's a good pitcher. I guess he's starting to earn his money a little bit.
That's true. And I'm reading from the rules here. Umpires should pay attention to the position of a batter's feet if he attempts to hit the ball while he's being intentionally passed. So there's a lot of rules, including a player that gets hit on purpose by a ball, and there's just no way that you can tell me that this shouldn't have been called by the umpire. I think he should have been called out. It should have been a perfect game, and that would have been the end of the game.
But don't you think it's kind of tough in a way to declare what the purpose is? He could say he just got caught. He didn't know which way to move to get out of it. I mean, it's kind of a tough thing to call. Well,
the announcers were even saying that it's hardly ever called. But in that circumstance, I don't think you cannot call it, because he actually lurched down to have his arm be hit by the pitch. It wasn't like he even was swinging at the ball or attempted to back off of the ball at all. It wasn't even that inside. He just lowered his arm down and let it hit him.
But then again, would you want to have a perfect game on that?
Well, if it's a rule violation that was called and it should have been called, yeah, I would say that is a perfect game still. To break up a perfect game by getting hit, I could see if he threw it at him, it went straight to him and hit him, no doubt about it. Then I can say that the perfect game was, in quote, not perfect, but it was just a shame to see somebody actually put their arm out and get hit by a pitch. Not that I mind that, if they swung away and got a hit, fine, still, but to break up a perfect game like that, I don't know.
Well, as I said, I didn't really see it, so I guess I shouldn't even be commenting on it, but that never stopped me before. So.
Well, we'd like to hear what you think about that play. If you want to write us in, talk@MLBThisWeek.com. Send us your email. In fact, if you like the show, if you don't like the show, we'd like to hear your comments. Just send them in to talk@MLBThisWeek.com. You can also go to our website. If you'd like to fill out a form, we have a form right there on the site. You can also fill out your comments there as well. You can also follow us on Twitter. Just follow us @MLBThisWeek. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Our channel there is MLB This Week. And we're also on Google+. Circle us there. Become our friend there on Google+. And you'll be getting updates on all of our shows. Gary, a lot of ways to check in with this show.
And don't forget, if you want to listen to lots of podcasts, including this one, and including Rich's show, Fighting Phillies, and my show, Mets Musings, go to baseballpodcast.net and baseballtalkradio.com, the home of great baseball talk shows. And there's all kinds. If you're a Dodger fan, a Giants fan, a Brewers fan, a Braves fan, Canadian baseball fan, Japanese baseball, fantasy baseball. It's all there, baseballtalkradio.com and baseballpodcast.net. Go check it out.
Yep, and you can even hear this show there on our player, a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week player, as well as the individual shows as well. So check it out, baseballtalkradio.com. And Gary, moving on with the show here, Cole Hamels pulled a prank on reporters and his fellow teammates in the past week. while nobody was looking, apparently, he cleaned out his locker, took his nameplate off of his locker, and completely looked like he had been traded out of Philadelphia. The next morning, when the press all arrived and his fellow teammates, they noticed that the locker was empty, and who knows, maybe they assumed he was traded, but Hamels came back laughing and kidding around. It turns out Associated Press writer Rob Mattey even assumed that he was pulling a prank, part of a mischievous prank there. So he didn't fool everybody there in Philadelphia.
That's a good one, Rich. That's one of the best ones that I've heard in a while. Cole Hamels at least got a sense of humor, although it may be what's going to happen if they do trade him.
Yeah, that'll be it'll be true then, and he will be gone. His locker will be cleaned out. Maybe he was showing him how fast he could do it. Clean out his locker and be gone. But after the prank, he had said that the tensions were high in the Phillies locker room and clubhouse with their losing of late. He just wanted to break some of that monotony up, and that apparently helped him. The Phillies got a win today against St. Louis. A pitcher, here's how I like baseball, Gary. A pitcher that was in the Phillies minors was finally called up. He was winless in 17 major league or professional starts that weren't at the major league level. They were all in double and triple A. Today he goes against the Cardinals and gets his first win of his career as a professional. His first game he's ever pitched in baseball, beats the Cardinals, and the Phillies win.
That's a great story. And Rich, it happens not that it happens a lot, but I know I thought it was just the Mets couldn't beat when they call up these guys, but it seems a lot of teams have trouble when somebody comes up because you don't have a book on them, and whatever little bit of information you have, it's probably not that accurate or not that good. And as you said, he didn't win in the minors, and he comes up here, and I guess some guys just perform better when the pressure's on and in a big situation. It's I've seen other ball players that struggled in the minors and they get called up and they have good pro careers. So good for him though, especially beating the Cardinals. That's a plus in my book anytime.
Yeah, and even his first batter, he struck out. So he even quieted down the Phillies announcers on television. They were saying, well, he's not a strikeout pitcher right before he struck his first batter out, and they were amused by it, But that's the great thing about baseball. You really can't figure it out too well.
Nah, you can't. It's just a wonderful game, and it's a frustrating game, and we get disgusted with our teams, but you got to stick with your teams anyway. And your team, unfortunately, struggling this season. My team now looks like they're going to be struggling. So, but got to hang in there, right, Rich?
That's for sure. You got to stay positive, upbeat, and just like Mike Schmidt today said, he broadcast the weekend home games for the Phillies. Leave the negative mojo behind. What happens from today on is what actually matters. Forget all that stuff that's happened already, bad or indifferent. Can't change it now. So I like Mike Schmidt's attitude on that.
I think he's got it right on the money.
The Tampa Rays have used some revolutionary technology. Gary, you're going to tell us all about that on this next story here on MLB This Week.
Well, yeah, Rich, in a quest to keep their pitchers healthy, the Rays have tried to position themselves ahead of baseball, emphasizing shoulder strengthening programs long before other teams caught on. Now they're using a new technology that they hope will give them a step up as well. The Rays will be the first team to install Kinetrax, a markerless motion caption system in their stadium. The The Kinetrax uses ultra high-speed cameras and aims to capture the sort of biomechanical data that previously necessitated the placement of reflective markers on different body parts. Should Kinetrax do what it purports to, it would revolutionize baseball by offering looks at pitchers' in-game biomechanics instead of those revealed in laboratory settings. By installing it at the Trop field, not only do the Rays get to analyze their own pitchers, they can track opponents' biomechanics as well. And how they will interpret the data is unclear. How they will be allowed to interpret the data may even be unclear. But this is the technology, and it's coming, and it's coming soon. And we'll see exactly what, if anything, they gain anything from this. I don't know what baseball is going to have to say about. Apparently, they approved it, but if you can see things in the other players or the pitchers during a game, can that affect the outcome of a game? I don't know, but they're going to try this, and we'll see how soon, if at all, it catches on with other places.
Yeah, it's amazing. It seems like more and more technology is creeping into this game with every a month that passes. But interesting to see that with baseball. And I hope they don't change and take out the human element of baseball. We've seen that a little bit about the calls with the instant replay. I kind of like it. I didn't think I would like it as much as I do. But some of those calls were pretty bad, Gary. So I guess technology has helped in that respect.
Yeah, I think it has. And I think, Rich, this will be used for hopefully for educational and health reasons in trying to keep these pitchers healthy. And it could be a good thing. Instead of dragging into a laboratory, have them pitch, when they put all of those things, the markers on them. There's a big difference when you throw there and when you actually throw in a game, because pressures of the game may make you do things differently, fatigue. If this thing works, they'll be able to track and learn things all about that kind of those kind of situations as they go along.
Yes, they will. I just hope it doesn't turn into like a sabermetric stat. We don't need any more stats in baseball, in my opinion. A little overdone. I think we share that same opinion on sabermetrics.
Yes, we do.
Well, one thing we won't find in the sabermetrics is how some animals react in baseball. And during the past week in major league stadiums, there's been a few incidents. One with a pigeon in a game. And, of course, there was a pigeon standing on the field in a Major League Baseball game the other evening, and he just would not get off the field. I'm going to try to play some of this audio here, and we'll see what they were saying.
And a pigeon out in front of the pitcher's mound. Worley went over to shoo it away. It draws a smile from Miguel Cabrera. All foul out of play. I mean, that is unbelievable.
And here,
no concern whatsoever what's going on between the pitcher's mound and home plate.
And his buddy's coming up from behind.
And the pigeon is still there halfway between
buddy right
home
behind
plate.
Vance.
He wasn't moving, so
maybe we should call Vance Whirly Bird.
There was two pigeons on the field, actually.
Taking his time going in, wondering whether or not he should
go. That's got to be crazy.
It's insane.
Then it has to cause some disturbance here. I mean, everybody's acting like this is normal.
Let them go.
Just let them go.
And there was two pigeons that never moved on a foul ball.
They could care less.
Cabrera just walked out to shoo him away. Worley tried to shoo him away, and they just won't leave the baseball diamond.
Wow, that's incredible. They're going to go right back at it. Now they're closer to home plate. Worley just rolled the baseball. Worley just rolled the baseball. Oh, man. You got to be kidding. Worley.
That was an epic moment of pigeons on the baseball diamond. Pittsburgh Pirate pitcher Vance Worley even threw a ball at him, and they didn't move, Gary.
And they liked being there, I guess, and they didn't want to go anywhere.
Yeah, and that was actually the second pigeon occurrence, so to speak, of the week. And the Phillies even had one. I don't have any audio of that, but it was hilarious. I was watching the game. A squirrel actually was crawling up the backstop behind the ball game while it was going on. The game came to a stop after the squirrel tried to make it across a thin wire that was holding up the netting behind home plate when he fell into the dugout. Phillies player scattered. It hit Chase Utley on the bench and then scrambled underneath and took some refuge behind the bench of the Phillies dugout.
So nothing's going right for the Phillies this year, huh?
The Phillies did end up a little squirrely on that play.
Oh, boy.
And I'm reaching for some sound effects here, but looks like they're not going to cooperate too well tonight.
Oh, well, there you go, Professor.
Here they are. A little squirrely there. Well, Gary, you have our last story of the evening here on our Father's Day 2015 special edition of MLB This Week, and it's a old-time story.
Yeah, it's going to be about Bobby Doerr on June 18th this past week. Bobby Doerr of the Boston Red Sox, the old Boston Red Sox player, became the oldest living Hall of Famer at 97 years and 72 days. So congratulations to Bobby Doerr. He has been a fixture around Fenway for years and years and years. And, of course, a great Red Sox player, a great Red Sox supporter over the years. I think he even coached there for a while. Great guy. I haven't met him, but I did happen to send him some things to autograph. And even at 96, I guess it was last year, he was signing autographs and returned the stuff. And it's really pretty neat that he did that. And so congratulations, the oldest living Hall of Famer, 97 years old, Bobby Doerr.
Very cool story there. Well, thanks for listening to this edition of MLB This Week. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast. We'll be coming back with many great shows, a lot more as the season rolls on, as we get closer to the All-Star game. And, Gary, it's just a great time to be a baseball fan.
It certainly is, Rich, and it looks like it's going to be a wild year, so keep rooting for your team and hope for the best.
And we'll talk to you again on the next edition of MLB This Week podcast.